Tony, you're basically a movie star. I mean, we had the Grammys earlier. I know that's not a movie thing, but I mean, kind of surprised I didn't see you there.
Well, yeah, I think it's a huge miss on whoever is responsible for this stuff. So the lack of awards for best supporting media person in a web-based docuseries.
It'd be its own category. Let's be honest.
I was in a movie with Jordan Spieth. That's how I'm telling the story.
Welcome back, everybody. GolfSpy T, GolfSpy C. How you living? It's No Putts Given. Chris Nickel, Tony Covey. We're back from the PGA show, and Tony is down 1/2 of 1 digit on his shirt, it appears.
Yeah. I'm good, though.
You're good?
For now.
Not a PGA show
for
malady.
Now, as the projects around the house continue to spiral out of control, we'll see. But for now, all 10 digits on the hands.
You feeling better, Tony?
You were 95%. 95% back from the PGA show malaise, the requisite disease, if you will.
Which is one of two things we can generally count on from any PGA show experience, being around that many people in confined spaces for hours on end. Number one, we tend to get sick. It just is kind of a thing. Number two, overpriced convention center food. Food and beverage. $19.13, roughly.
Is that what it was, 1913?
Yeah, roughly, something like that. 1913 will get you a 20-ounce bottle of your Pepsi product of choice, plus a rather underwhelming sized crepe.
And it's not just a crepe. It's not because we're all bougie eating crepes, as I said in the post. It's basically anything, and a bottle of soda is $19 and change.
Yeah, it could be a chicken sandwich. It could be a couple street tacos. It could be a crepe.
Tainted taco bowl.
It could be a tainted taco bowl, which got our video guy Parker
better than me
in a bad way. Yeah, but we're back. We're feeling good, Tony. Two big topics. Let's talk. We got PXG golf balls.
We do. PXG
talk about those.
Is making a golf ball.
And second topic, Tony, you're basically a movie star. I mean, we had the Grammys earlier. I know that's not a movie thing, but I mean, kind of surprised I didn't see you there.
Well, yeah, I think it's a huge miss on the Academy or whoever is responsible for this stuff. So
the recording,
the lack of the lack of awards for best supporting media person in a web-based docuseries. Something
should be its own category. Let's be honest.
I was in a movie with Jordan Spieth. That's how I'm telling the story. Everything else it's all ball bearings, as they say.
We're going to talk more about that too. But before we get to you and your movie debut, let's talk about this golf ball, PXG. Now, once upon a time, Tony, PXG tried to make a golf ball in a galaxy far, far away in a time long, long ago. But it wasn't even called PXG then, was it?
True story. So when PXG, the original PXG engineering team, Brad Schweigert and Mike Nicolette came over from Ping, they were operating under non-compete agreements. And so for the first year they were at PXG, or the umbrella company YAM, they were not able to work on golf clubs because that would be competing with Ping. However, making a golf ball would not. And so they worked on a golf ball at the time that was called the Slick golf ball. Slick golf.
Slick
never
golf.
Right, most people never heard of it, but I like to say not day one, but technically before day one, before PXG could design clubs, they worked on a golf ball. So this isn't like, out of the blue, let's make a golf ball. This was something that was on the radar, basically almost a decade ago now. Crazy.
But we never heard of Slick Golf after that. It came to a rather unceremonious end before it even started. Really? Right?
Yeah. So as the story goes, and I want to clarify, this is going back some number of years now, and stories evolve and change. Hey, you too. Knock it off. All right. So back to
as the story goes.
as the story goes, and prefaced with, right, there's some mythology here, and who knows what the absolute letter of the truth is, but this is the way it is now recounted. So PXG developed this ball, this slick golf ball. They think they have something, and they're out on the range doing testing. And as I understand it, as I've heard it, this is before Scottsdale National was renovated and totally beautiful. So they're on the older driving range in the shack with the robot. Brad and Mike are in the shack feeding the robot balls, and Bob is literally standing on the range with a walkie-talkie. So they're firing slick balls downrange, and Bob's out there. This looks pretty good. And then they load up Pro V1X, I believe it was. First one goes flying over his head. Second one over his head. And I don't know if it took another one before Bob radioed back, like, guys, we're not going to make a golf ball. over, out,
over,
done,
over.
Fiend.
You don't have to say over. You don't have to do the makes it.
Yeah, no, there's probably some, but yeah, that was the sound of the slick golf ball being scratched from the lineup before there was a lineup. So yeah, long story short, this is not a new idea for PXG, but it is a new golf ball for
all right.
PXG.
So not a new idea, but a new ball. Why now, Tony?
Why not? Why not? Well,
why now though? Why 2023? Why after you had this debacle, not even debacle, but great learning experience that, hey, this ball market's tough. I mean, we are littered with golf balls out there. The requests you get to add things to Ball Lab and cut this and test that and do this, and it seems like there's a new DTC brand popping up literally every day, and then 3 more disappearing. Why jump into such a crowded market?
I probably can speculate and say there's a few reasons. First, I mean, if you look at what Titleist is doing now, $54.99 a dozen. Callaway Bridgestone, $49.99 a dozen. Strixon's a little bit less, but of your sort of the guys, those brands, and really even the top 3 is the bulk of your market share. Mm-hmm. Certainly when you funnel in like Pinnacle, even, which, believe it or not, does register. So Acushnet / Titleist has a good chunk of market share. TaylorMade's got a decent cut. Callaway obviously has a decent cut now. Mm-hmm. And those guys are all not only expensive, but seemingly getting more expensive as they kind of fight this weird battle amongst themselves to dominate the premium description. Like, all right, I'm $54 or $55. I'm more premium than you. And so I don't think Callaway's going to stay at $49.99 because that's $5 less than premium now. So these guys
you forgot Clear. We didn't mention
$58, right? Yeah, we definitely do not want to discount the Clear golf ball. So
no. But
point being, who knows what the La golf ball is going to be when that rolls out as well. So I think there's an opportunity to provide a urethane offering for less than those guys. And sure, yeah, obviously lots of companies already do, but I think that is one piece of it. Certainly, I believe PXG believes it has a much better performing ball than the original Slick. So, hey, we got something that is market ready finally.
Sure.
And the other thing here, this is a disposable piece of equipment. It means ongoing income potentially if people like the ball and continue to buy it. And right, hey, let me bring you into the PXG fold, and it's a good way. If this is $39.99. I think it could have been interesting. We'll talk about that here in a minute. I think it could have been more interesting at a lower price, but that removes some of the barrier of entry to the PXG brand. So maybe that's, hey, let me experience a PXG product at an even more affordable price than $1 or excuse me, $199 or whatever a driver goes for this week.
Right. So to recap real quick, I mean, with that, so as we've seen some pricing pressures go up, it kind of expands maybe what that middle ground of what value is, or what maybe constitutes value. But 2 questions. First question, Tony. Let's talk. What is the ball, like construction wise, and get into a little bit of kind of the performance attributes of it, because it's a single ball, right? We see again every company you just mentioned in those top tier companies that dominate the market, they have 2 and 3, in some cases 4 different quote unquote kind of flagship or tour premium urethane balls. This is a ball, right?
Yeah, I'm just checking my notes. So yes, one ball, and I was trying to find the line PXG uses. So this is one ball that does it all. And
Okay.
so that's kind of the thinking, right? We're going to have one ball and it's going to fit most golfers, and I think that's a fair assessment. It's a good. Is it going to be dialed in absolutely precisely for everybody? Definitely not. It's going to work for a lot of golfers, yeah, because it's in that design space that typically works well. So 3-piece urethane cover. Interesting note. What PXG said is they were kind of hoping to split the difference on compression between, and if you want to equate that to feel, that's reasonable as well, between the Pro V1 and the Pro V1X. So
Okay.
on our gauges, that suggests a target in the low 90s. I measured a quick handful, and they average out at 97, which puts it completely level with the Pro V1X. So in terms of compression, I think that's probably the point of comparison, though, with this particular cover. It's a thicker urethane cover, so you do have more soft material to interact with. So it may feel a bit softer, but yeah, that's kind of the big picture view.
Okay. So quick recap: 3-piece ball, urethane cover. In the urethane cover space, we have two different types generally, right? We have a cast urethane, which tends to be pretty thin, and then we have an injection molded or TPU urethane cover, which tends to be a little thicker. And you said this is the latter. Is that important?
This is injection molded TPU, and shall we jump right into it?
Let's do it. Get it. Jump right
So
into it.
so as one does when you're the ball lab guys, you try and track down the factory that is making the ball. First clue came on the box. These are made in Vietnam, which narrows the field considerably. The fact that it has 338 dimples narrows it further, and so to me that gave me one really good point of comparison, and so I went digging, and
Of course you did.
here's what
Ah,
matches the cover right there. So that is
your
the
5 gallons of mayonnaise and some Kirkland signature golf balls. So same cover? Are we? Can we say that or no?
what I will say is it is consistent with the cover on the Kirkland golf ball, and
Okay.
I spoke to Bob Parsons this morning and confirmed that yes, it is being made by the factory. It goes by a few different names: SM Global, SM Parker. SM Global, I think, is really more on the import exporter for the factory.
Right.
I don't know if it still goes by Qingdao, which is what it was when it was in China, but they've shifted operations to Vietnam. So yeah, this is being produced by the same factory that produces the Kirkland signature. Um, so there you go. This one, red, white, and blue, PXG,
Makes sense.
yellow, white, and blue, Kirkland. To be clear, this is not the same golf ball. The cover, I believe,
That was
consistent, potentially identical, likely identical, but certainly the core is different. We measure the PXG ball as firmer. Having done some ball testing out at PXG with PXG engineers, I'm confident that they know exactly what the Kirkland ball is and would not want to re-release the Kirkland. So
mm-hmm.
my hunch is it's going to be, I know based on my measurements that it is a firmer ball, slightly firmer, about 5 compression points firmer than a Kirkland. That tells me it's going to be faster.
Yep.
I guarantee you they've taken more than a little spin out of the ball. So I think fundamentally a different ball with the same cover, because we've talked about that before. As I've come to believe over the last handful of years doing this golf ball stuff, I think in terms of all of the R&D challenges in golf, producing a viable high performance dipple pattern is probably the most difficult thing to do. And so, yeah, there's a reason why companies tend to use them over and over, and factories use them over and over and over. So I think that's what we've got is a ball made at the same factory that shares a cover with the Kirkland, but is otherwise different.
All right. So let's go two different directions with this. Direction number one, we don't know about performance yet. We don't know about consistency of production yet because we haven't run those tests. We haven't done those pieces. But let's talk just from the performance standpoint first. What is PXG saying, and do you buy it?
So, PXG is there's some stuff coming from Mike Nicolette again. You know, as I note in the article, as far as I know, he's the only engineer working at a golf company who's ever won on the PGA Tour. We know about Marty at Ping, very competent player.
Right.
He
Right.
can handle himself, but Nico actually won at Bay Hill. He'll tell you it was about
73 maybe,
it was. I don't think it was.
1970s.
I think
78,
late
77.
70s, 78. I don't know. We
Yeah.
can look it up.
But he
Just
won on the
Google.
PGA Tour. Yeah.
Just Google Mike Nicolette. It is worth it for the first picture that comes up anyway. It's one suave dude back
He
in
is
his
one
time.
good-looking fella. That is fair.
So, Nico says it's the best performing ball he's ever used. And in his testing, the Titleist balls have never been able to keep up with the PXG. And he says that, and he acknowledges it. Since he
Some
kind of
bias.
works, works for PXG. Maybe you're not going to be inclined to take him at his word for it, but it's
right.
Kind of one of those things that makes you go, all right, maybe it's worth checking out. And the other piece is the requisite bit from Ball Labs, independent testing. Golf Labs, independent testing at Golf Labs, which shows that it is a tick longer than the Pro V1X, a little bit longer still than the Pro V1. And then the rest, PXG will tell you that it shows that their ball is better. And you see similar numbers on wedges and irons as well.
Right.
The distance piece is intriguing. The rest, as I say, I don't tend to look at that stuff as better or worse. I think it just says, hey, it has a little different flight and spin properties than a Pro V1X or a Pro V1. So that's what I chalk it up to. Again, the distance piece, the ball speed piece is interesting. But we've seen these Golf Labs reports for years, and they tend to all show the same thing. The home team wins.
Always,
they win at a clip that would make the Globetrotters blush. So take it
for
what it is. Interesting to me, not definitive, but interesting. And $40, somebody's gonna try it out anyway.
That's what I was going to say. What was interesting to me is, you can split hairs over 1/10 of a mile here and 2/10 of a mile there, and being able to say better, longer, whatever the case is. Again, home team always wins. That's fine. But to me, basically trying to put it in the conversation, right? Because sometimes it's about the company that you keep, right? And when we see these Golf Lab reports, it's always compared to, or generally, Pro V1, Pro V1X.
Always.
People aren't.
They're not going, to see one that wasn't.
We were just as long as clear and slightly longer than TP5X or whatever, right? So people. They want want to associate
in head-to-head testing. We bested the sugar by 4.5 yards,
right? Right. So basically saying, hey, you see the tagline, and we saw this before with other companies. Titleist-ish performance at a price that is $15 a dozen,
$15 less, right? So that's
not chump change.
And I don't know. I mean, on percentage, 15 is a lot more than 10. And so, as I noted, you're just kind of maybe running away from the budget-minded consumers. And if for $40, I can get a golf ball, which, according to the PXG marketing info here, performs. Ready for it?
Ready.
This ball performs like a gymnast wearing a jetpack getting fired through a howitzer. They go far and stick the landing. And I guess that's a good thing. I don't know. I'm still trying to unpack it, but I'm pretty sure no other golf ball does that. So
I don't know what else you would want from a golf ball other than that. So we don't know 100% on performance yet. Obviously, as we get time and we're able to figure some of that out, that's totally fine. But what would you expect from the ball lab side when we run our labs, right? Labs, again, people, they're not about performance. It's about the quality and consistency of manufacturing. Anybody can make one really, really awesome golf ball. Nobody makes a perfect golf ball. The question is, how many times can you hit the just
can you make a million of them?
Can you make a million of them? So knowing what you know about SM Parker, knowing what you know about that, do you have any expectations when you start putting these through the real paces?
I don't, and it's only because, first of all, SM Parker doesn't make a ton of golf balls. They're not churning out the volume of DTC stuff that, at least not that we test. So they're not churning out the volume that Foremost or Launch Technologies is. It's relatively limited.
Yeah.
Right. And certainly not like, hey, the Titleist factories or the Bridgestone factories or Callaway at Chicopee, right? We don't see a ton from here. In fact, I believe the Kirkland is the only thing we've ever tested. And the first generation, not so great. The first 3-piece. second generation quality was better, but now we have a new ingredient, and that's that, hey, these are being produced in an entirely different factory. So I don't know, hey, did they get better? You would hope they get better. Did they get a little worse? There's a people element. How experienced are the people in the new Vietnamese factory versus the guys that were making balls at the Chinese factory? So there's a
Right.
lot to consider, but to put a short answer to your question, I have no expectation because we don't have a lot of familiarity at
Yeah.
all with this factory.
Yeah. So we will get this into Ball Lab at some point, and
I would
should be.
imagine people are going to want it in quickly. So
Yeah,
for
we may
sure.
push it towards the front of the line, but I want to go back, Tony, to when we first heard about this last week or whatever, and it's like, hey, PXG's coming out with a ball. Start looking at it based on what you thought then, as compared to what you know now. Are you more excited for this ball to come out? Less excited for the ball to come out, considering price, performance, where it's made, all of those things? Where's your temperature?
I would say I'm a little less excited, and it's fun to track down the factory. That's kind of hey, that's a
That's
stupid
because
hobby
you're a
that I
ball
have.
nerd. That's because you're
Yeah,
a
but
nerd.
when I heard about this, I started thinking about, all right, because it's textbook PXG. Here's the presentation. We're going to tell you everything you need to know about this product, except how much it costs. We'll
Right.
tell you that in a few days. We'll finally figure that out and let you know. And so, kind of thinking about, all right, where's the market
Right.
impact? Where where do you think it could be disruptive? And I was thinking, and again, based on everything Bob has done with PXG pricing, where he hasn't been afraid to go low and make small margins and things like that, I thought $29.99 was the number I had. I thought if
Okay.
this ball comes out at $29.99 with a somewhat recognizable name, I think PXG at this point is you have to
Sure.
you have to assume most golfers have heard of it by now. So if
Yeah.
this ball comes out at $29.99, sub $30, it is disruptive. I think you really have the potential to disrupt the market there. If you go, and I consider $24.99 as a possibility, at that
Hmm.
point you're just throwing rocks at everybody else, sticking out your tongue, you know.
Right.
I thought that would have been something.
Uh-huh.
At $40 now, you're in the ERC soft category. The Titleist Tour Speed, I think, is about
Right.
that price point, or you can
Right.
die, in that vicinity, plus or minus $5.
Right.
And so at this price, I don't know. Like, you're going to people who buy it out of curiosity, and it
Sure.
probably is going to develop a following because PXG already has a following. But I
Sure.
also look at this and go, well, I can get Max Flies for less, and that is a really, really good golf ball. And I
Mm-hmm.
can get Encore for less, and that's a good ball. And Snell, when you can get them, I can get those for less. Those are good balls, and not for anything, and for most golfers, they may not care, but there's a school of thought that says that cast urethane is better than injection molded. And so those balls that I just rattled off, those are cast urethane balls. So if I can get cast urethane for 35, 30 or less, if I'm buying in bulk, even Vice, right? Another one that
Mm-hmm.
people know that has developed a following.
Yep.
If I can get those for the price that I can get them at, that to me is more compelling than a PXG ball at $40. So for
Yeah.
me, the price is a little bit of a miss, and who knows? Would anybody be shocked if it was $40 for 3 weeks and then came down in price? I don't think so.
No.
So that could happen. So again, I think it's intriguing. Obviously, people are going to want to try it out and see what's going on, but it's priced a little too high for me. But again, if you say, hey, I'm trying to compete with these guys at just a slightly lower price point, I get it. I
Mm-hmm.
just think if the intent is to be disruptive and really put your foot down both in the market and maybe on some brands' throats, it's too high for that.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, like I said, I think people will buy a box off curiosity. Everybody, buy one because you're intrigued. Do you come back, two, three, four, five dozen? That's more of a performance thing. I
Who knows,
think
right?
that
Buy two get one. There are lots of ways that these prices could move in time that I think would make it more intriguing. So yeah.
Mhm. I won't be shocked to see that at all. I think if you're disruptive to a market, on pricing, right? You have to go one direction or the other. You either come in with a ball that's $70 a dozen or something like that, or like you said, you keep it sub 30. PXG didn't run either way initially with that. Will not surprise me at all if you get, hey, it's $40 a dozen, but you know,
It's
there
a
are
little,
ways
yeah, it's
to.
a little too stuck in the middle, but
Hmm.
hey, I could be shocked, right? I mean, I think there are unknowns about quality aside, and to be
Right.
clear,
We don't
unknowns,
have all
right?
the information yet. Right.
But you can certainly buy a lesser ball for the same money. So, I mean, that's one way to look at it, I guess.
Yeah. And we'll see. Right. To be determined. But Tony, you're a movie star. You're in a movie with Jordan Spieth.
Yeah.
Tell me
and
about
and
this.
and Stephanie Luttrell. I think let's not
Well, let's
discount
be clear.
Stephanie's role
Let's be
in any
clear.
of this.
Right. So, but you were in a docuseries. What was it? And did
Yeah, so
anybody? And most importantly, has anybody seen it? Did anybody
well, so
actually
this
watch
is,
it?
I mean, this will go live Wednesday, so the docuseries will hit the interwebs officially on Tuesday. It was, you could have caught it inside the Titleist booth during the PGA show, but it effectively tells the story. So let's see. Here's kind of the official Titleist text on it. We
All
go
right.
farther is a new series from Titleist that takes you deep inside the Titleist Speed Project, a 6-year journey that transformed a daunting challenge into tour dominance. Meet the team that led the way and see what it takes to harness pure speed.
Okay.
So there you go.
Great. So, what role did you play in this? How did you even get involved in
So yeah, so I
something
got I got a
like
call
this?
from one of the guys at Titleist, and he was like, "Hey man, so we're gonna shoot this documentary thing, and we're bringing in an experienced team who's actually done documentaries that are on Netflix. So some high powered at least people behind this. I don't think this is going to Netflix anytime soon, but that's kind of the production quality." And he said, "Hey, so we're shooting this thing that kind of talks about the evolution of our drivers to where we were to where we are today with TS, TSI, and TSR. It's like,
Yeah.
would you be willing to kind of be in it and talk about stuff?" I said,
Right.
"Well, like, I have a question. Am I allowed to talk about when they sucked?" And he's like, "Yeah, absolutely." I'm like, "All right, I'm in." So that's kind of how I got into it, I guess.
So yeah, I mean, going back to that, and we were at the premiere at the PGA show, and a lot of media types and people.
This is the one place to get free food was the popcorn at the
I know the
premiere.
pot, and it was great. I appreciated
Uh,
that very
More of that.
much. They, I know, we saw it, we watched it. They didn't necessarily lean into the whole "when the driver sucked" piece, maybe as much as you wanted them to.
Oh,
Is that
I
fair?
try. That's fair, but I get, and they seem to kind of want to start the story at 9:17, and that being like they thought they had something, but they realized very quickly that ball speed was becoming more of a talking point, and ancillary to that, spin becoming more of a talking point. And when you're slow and spinny in a world, what I would say is Titleist was in a position where they were getting pantsed by the launch monitor.
Uh
It's just
huh.
kind of hard to hide from that stuff. And so it's kind of like the evolution of 917 to the TS series. And, if I had my way, we'd go all the way back. I'm like, let's start the conversation at 907 D1. Like, let's start there. Let's talk about how you made the triangle thing. And then just was like, you know what, we're just going to make conventionally shaped drivers that are slow and spinny for almost a decade. And then we're going to title a speed project. So we didn't go all the way back in time, but yeah, we started at 917 with some acknowledgments that it wasn't competitive with some of the other drivers on the market. But here we are, right? By TS, it was TSI was like okay, and now TSR, you're like, all right, yeah, you can run with anybody. So
Well,
really,
and
just a story of the evolution, and also, I think really the critical piece of it is showing the kind of the thinking that went into the design, and the people that brought those designs to life. So we talked about Stephen Luttrell, Chuck
right.
Golden, Steve Ogg on that team as well. I mean, just
Yeah.
JJ. So everybody that
Right.
kind of contributed on the Titleist team, and I think that's important because it helps put a face or faces to the brand, and I'm gonna think of like the old days of the golf industry. That's something that's kind of disappeared a little bit. Like back in the day, there were guys, like this is the guy that designed my club, and now it's become much more corporate. So I think
Sure.
as brands as brands want to connect with golfers, sort of introducing them in some way to the people behind the products, I think is a really cool way to do that.
Well, you realize those people are more, in some ways, like you and I, and say, hey, they have a job. They go to work. They do a job. This is what they work on, and you hear them talking about it as a project and something that is similar to how other people talk about their jobs and projects and things that they work on, and you kind of get an idea of these things don't just come out of a vacuum, and it's like, okay, well, now here's the next Pro V1, or here's the next PXG golf ball, or here's the next Callaway iron, or whatever the case is, that there are people right now that are working on those things, and they're working several generations ahead. And I think Steve Pelisek mentioned this, which I thought was really cool, basically saying, we know now where we are. We know kind of what our runway is, where we think we can get better over the next couple generations. We also kind of think we know where other companies' runway is and where they can get better. And I think his quote was something to the effect of, we're going to be really hard to catch.
Right.
And your response, do you feel like, has Titleist moved ahead of the idea of saying, hey, we're going to be hard to catch means you're ahead.
I think
Right?
everybody everybody who makes a driver feels like they're ahead. They feel like they're super innovative. They feel like they're hard to catch. And so I think half the battle is finding the message that resonates with the guys that actually buy the golf clubs, because especially if you're just going to walk into a big box store and hit a few balls in a hitting bay, these products are going to be way more alike than they are different. And so
Sure.
it's how can you sort of finesse your way into something that works in a fitting environment. And so I'm sure Titleist feels they're ahead, but they may be, but I'd venture to say TaylorMade feels like they're ahead, and they may be. And
Right.
Callaway probably feels like they're ahead, and they may
Justin
be.
Rose.
Ping,
Yeah, feels are
so
there.
just run down the list.
Right.
So I get
Right.
it. That's their perspective, and I think they feel like they do have a bright future there, but everybody's in pretty good shape. It's what is that? I think Pelly said 5 years on the runway that they know about.
They can
So
kind
if
of
they can
see that far.
continue,
Yeah.
I can see 5 years ahead, which for Titleist is only two more drivers. So we'll see
Yeah.
what's the next five and the five after that. But I'm sure they're comfortable.
I'm sure they like it. It also kind of makes me think this docuseries, it was cool. I think people will like to see, like you said, some of the people behind the scenes, who they are, just from that type of an experience. And I remember, I don't know if you remember the show when they did like behind the music,
Sure.
and you would see kind of those things, and it's like, oh, what's next, or this is next. What's another docuseries you would want to see, or you think people might want to go behind the scenes and see, like, what's out? I got a couple ideas here, but
Well, I'm
I
telling
want
you.
to hear
So
yours first.
as the guy you would call if you want to tell a story of from when you sucked to when you didn't suck.
Right.
I mean, Callaway Golf Ball, I think, is first and foremost. Like, we want to talk about the history there and where they're going, and presumably, based on what I've seen, where they'll be in a year or two. I think that could be a fascinating one.
Uh-huh.
The other one, to me, it's not as dramatic. It's not going to piss anybody off to the same degree as anything I
Right.
might say about a Callaway Golf Ball, but
Right.
the TaylorMade irons. If you kind of go back to what that franchise looked like, even
Like
like
Rack OS kind of stuff, or are we going to go
a
back
little,
to?
what is it? Basically when everything was red and plastic, the whole face slots era, and the speed blades and rocket blades and all that kind of stuff, where
Uh-huh.
they weren't sophisticated. The designs were not refined.
Right.
So
Right.
again, when they sucked, I'm your guy. Okay,
I'm
I'm
your
your
guy.
when they you're looking for somebody to leave a big steamy one on your brand. Give me a call. But to where they are now, where like there's these really beautiful irons that look good, they feel good, they perform. So I think that's one for sure. But what do you got?
Well, so I was thinking about, like, yes, I think you're the from when they suck to how they shine guy. That's you. I'm getting more into like some of the what really happened when DJ fell down the stairs.
You want to go?
I
You
want to
want to peel
get
back the curtain?
yeah, I want like a Netflix
uh,
docuseries
oh my
on that
god!
or maybe the equipment side like hey, who really made Tiger Woods irons? We've heard these things. Was it Mizuno? Was it Miura? Was it this? Was it that? Things that people might kind of sink their
Mm.
teeth into. I think those could be kind of fun. And then like another great one docu series would be like let's look from like 2000 to 2023 because the PGA Tour has never made this stuff public. Like who was fined and suspended and for what and when? That kind of a cool 30 for 30 kind of
I'm
deal.
kind of the when you sucked to when you got better guy, and
Yeah.
you're really like you want to be the unsolved mysteries guy.
Yeah, I want to hear about that. And then the other one, it could be kind of cool because this allows me to flip the question on you a little bit is what if they did a docuseries someday on MyGolfSpy? But instead, you don't play you. Some actor has to come play you.
Ooh.
Who should play Tony Covey in the made for TV
Oh,
special
this is what I
of
gotta hear.
of
Yeah.
when how my golf spy came
Oh,
came to
leave that in the
exist.
I would say put it in the comments, but we are going to get so many that are going to say that Murr from
Yeah,
Impractical
practical
Jokers
jokers.
because apparently, yeah,
All right,
apparently
so you
there is a
can't say
similarity.
him,
Can't
but
say
you can
him.
post it below. Who should play Tony? Who should play me? Put me down there. I cannot wait to hear what people come up with, and it whatever. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a beautiful thing. Tony, what time is it?
Mailbag.
Mailbag. We
Oh,
got
I
how much time?
redlined the mic there. That's awesome.
You
Okay,
did. That was
that's loud.
how, well. I mean, there you have it. Question one coming in off the mailbag. More or less, I'm going to paraphrase this question from this person. They said, I thought the Pro V1X was the lower launching, lower spinning ball. When did Titleist change that?
Yeah, this is amazing. So this started on Instagram where somebody asked the question about the spin properties, the launch and spin properties, and so I hopped in and was like, hey, Pro V1X, high launch, high spin, Pro V1, mid launch, mid spin, AVX, low launch, low spin. Again, requisite disclaimer, painting with a very broad brush here. That's how Titleist positions things. And then somebody was like, I thought that the Pro V1 was higher spinning, and I'm like, it was, but then Titleist changed it, and it was surprising to me, first of all, that how many people didn't know that the change had been made. And I've run into that too with some guys I know who told me like, oh yeah, I was spinning the Pro V1 too much around the green or on approach shots, so I switched to the Pro V1X. And I'm like, about that. So yeah, it's kind of I think a lot of people weren't aware that the switch was made, and definitely weren't aware that it was made all the way back in 2017. So a long time ago, they kind of flip
6
flopped
years.
those
Mm-hmm.
and kind of changed it up. And I think it's hard to. People have asked why, and I think it was probably done in an attempt to simplify the messaging. And in doing so, right, the best laid plans, the best of intentions,
Right.
just created some chaos in knowledge. But hopefully, it starts to resonate here all these years later that X is your high spin and the Pro V1 is your
I
mid
have a
mid.
solution. I
Then
have a
we won't even
solution,
talk
Tony.
about dash and dots and
No, but I have a solution.
stars. Yes.
The golf industry is notoriously bad at codifying things or having agreement around things, even like what an inch is, right? They can't even agree on how
Oh,
to measure a golf
Marshall's
club.
big drawer of rulers.
but by default, the industry kind of backs into some of these things where more or less there is continuity. So if I were to tell you that there were a shaft that was blue, what profile do you think that blue shaft probably is?
Blue has got to be mid. That's a
It's
mid.
mid launch, mid spin,
Even
right?
though shafts, as Ian
Black
Fraser likes to say, shafts don't spin. But
shafts don't
that's how.
spin, but mid launch, mid spin is blue. Low launch, low spin tends to be like a black or a green. Higher launch, higher spin tends to be
That's always red.
red. So why not just go and make the Pro V1 balls Pro V1 blue, Pro V1 black, Pro V1 red?
Oh, you've got. I mean, there's so much legacy with those balls. We
I
actually,
know.
it's like, hey guys,
I know, but it's a
we actually had the conversation several years ago with somebody
I know.
inside the Titleist booth. It was like, I feel like you guys have been doing this Pro V1 thing for a while. Have you ever thought about a Pro V2? Isn't it like
Right.
time for a new one?
Right?
So I
Maybe.
don't know that they were solidly on board with that idea, but yeah. So there you go.
Last question, Tony, and then we'll get to it. This question came in terms of what's in your bag, or how are you kind of going through that process? We're not going to talk all the way through our golf bags. What is the one club this year that you're most excited to either test or replace, or as you kind of start your journey of getting things set and ready for this year? What's the first place you're going to start?
It's always the driver. That's always, it's just fun for me, right? I think a lot of people love to go to the range and just let the big dog hunt, if you will.
Sure.
And so it's fun, it's interesting, and you always, distance is still kind of the driving factor in our decisions, especially off the tee. So that's where I'll sneeze coming, not coming, I don't know.
Wow.
So that's kind of where I'll experiment and see where I land. But I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. There's a lot of cool stuff this year, and certainly I want to try the Paradigm and knock the Stealth around. And I'm probably personally a little more intrigued by Aerojet than it seems a lot of our audience is. But
yeah,
I don't know. I'm not amped up like it normally would be. So if I ended up in the TSR for the duration of it, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely going to go out and bang some balls and see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, the rest of my bag, we'll see some new stuff here in a few weeks that maybe intrigues us. We'll see, but I don't know. Maybe I'm getting old. Maybe I'm just getting sensible. But I'm not.
You're definitely one of the two. You're definitely one of the
both.
two.
But I'm definitely not in a hurry to replace everything in my bag like I used to be. So
yeah,
no urgency.
My sense of urgency is gap wedge. I cannot wait to find. No, I'm just kidding. Do I go 50 or do I go 51 degrees this year? I don't know. Yeah, it starts with the driver, and then we'll kind of go from there. And I think we've said this before. If you have not purchased a driver, if you are in the driver market, let's say it's been 3 to 5 years and you haven't upgraded. I was talking with one of my buddies yesterday. We're hitting some balls on the simulator, and he has the original Epic, very, very first one. And he hits the ball really good. Good player, low handicap, 2-3 handicap, and he's in the market for a new driver this year. And said that's the guy or gal that should be really excited about drivers this year. If you have not done it and this is your first purchase, or you're looking to upgrade the driver, you haven't done it the last 3 to 5 years. My gut, I haven't seen our testing data from Most Wanted yet, but my gut is, man, this is a good year where you could almost close your eyes, throw it, get ideally fit into that. There's a lot of really, really good options out there. So
yeah, it's a good year if you didn't buy one last year or probably even the year before. So
yeah,
like I said, I'm getting sensible in my old age.
You're losing fingers, Tony, as well. This is what
we'll see.
This is what happens. Well, as always, people, you got questions, post them below. We got to know who's playing Tony in this made for TV MyGolfSpy event situation. Who do you want to play me? I'm not sensitive. Throw it out there. You can say whatever you want. It's gonna be fun. But GolfSpy T, Tony Covey, GolfSpy C, Chris Nickel. Until next time, we out.